And this gets into future proofing too, because some people will say, well, I don't need a procedure because like, I'm just always going to handle that. Like, I want it to be dynamic. And it's okay. It's not about what happens right now, because just like what you said, you can still build out a robust SOP that maybe has some elements that you're not going to currently do. But as you grow, it puts you in the mindset of, but I do want to fill this section here. Like, this is what I want to grow into. And if you build your optimal growth path through this, it's going to help you do the actions today that are going to put you there. Welcome back, everyone, to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. As always, he is Garrett Fry. I am Matt Pinelli, and we are happy to see you guys here today. Well, at least you're seeing us. We don't get to actually see you here, but we would love to see you in the comments. So if you're listening on an audio platform right now, head over to the YouTube and search for Life at 10 Tenths. You're going to find us there. You can just, or put the / at Life at 10 Tenths. Comment on this episode and let us know that you found us, and hit the subscribe button. It helps us get this out further. We've been hearing from a lot of you, which is so incredible. We love you guys so much, because you've been asking, like, how can we get this out to more people? Like, I want to share this with more people. Well, one of the easiest ways is to literally hit the share button. Just share an episode with somebody. If you get something out of any of these things, all we ask is that you share it out. And then you can obviously come join us in our community, which is great, but we would just love for you guys to share it. So we appreciate you all. And we got a great one today, because we're going a bit tactical, a bit business operations, which is something that I love, Garrett. And so I'm excited to dive in this with you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. I'm excited to go down a little bit of a different route today. And I think it's, a lot of this has come from us actually building our business and growing our business. And a lot of the books that we've read and the tools that we've taken away, where we're going, okay, now it is time for us to build out some SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. So if anybody ever hears anybody talk about SOPs, we got to have SOPs. Matt says this all the time, almost to the point of like, oh my gosh, stop saying the word SOP.
We could build an SOP for that.
We could build an SOP for that.
We can build an SOP for me stopping to say SOP.
We'll work on that later. We will, I promise. But so it's been really fun for myself and Matt, Matt, as we're growing this and as we're building it, to go, okay, so what are our standard operating procedures? And then to sit there and go, like, I created a big picture SOP, and you're like, there's like a whole bunch of SOPs that we need to build inside of this, because this is too broad. It's too big. And we started really narrowing it down to some small chunks that the ability of being able to understand your business, understand why things are working, understand the effectiveness of how you're being, but then also being able to understand what is it that I don't need to be doing and what do I need to be able to give away. Like, this is the way you are going to see it. Like, my eyes have been opened so big and so clear building these out, Matt, to go, oh my gosh, I did not realize all the steps it took to do this, all the steps to be consistent, and then to be able to go, like, now I can have this clear picture of where we're at and where we're going. Yeah. I am addicted now. Addicted.
Yeah, me too. And I will say, like, this is where you get to see and take all the things that, and because we see this with realtors all the time, they're like, I can't, give this off because I need to do it. But if you even just write down all the things that I do, it's like, it becomes clear on, look at all these steps, right? Using market impact reports as an example, right? These are one of the things which many of you might call real estate reviews, that whenever people do them, they're like, oh, these things are great. Like, my clients love them. I get increased engagement. I get referrals, but I'm never consistent with it. I was like, and you even mentioned, it's like, well, how do you do it? It's like, well, I do 2 a week. It's like, how do you do it? Right? Yeah. Like, get it down to all of the specific details of how it begins in terms of even the selection of who's going to get these impact reports this month. How do we start to, take that list to then build the report? What goes into building the report? Because what I find, Garrett, I had this great call with someone the other day, and it's like, well, even if it's like, well, I don't want to hand it off because there's usually some sort of finishing touch that I need to put on, or at the front, I need to, do some nuance. I'm like, oh, dude, 10-80-10. Put in 10% of the effort up front on identifying what needs to be done, offload 80%, then come back for the final 10. But you can't do that if you don't have a clear procedure on how to make it all happen.
So going back to how you started this, when we're sharing our conversation of like, well, what is your process? Well, I do 2 a week. That by the way is more common than anything we find, Matt. Is like that's the only goal. They have a system they're following out there that says they're supposed to do 2 of these a week. When it comes to handwritten notes, they have a system out there they're using that says, well, you're supposed to write 10 handwritten notes a week. Well, great. What is your plan to get that done consistently? How do you do it? So I want to break down notes for a second because we started talking about this, and notes are a fascinating thing because you can just say, okay, my goal is to write 10 a week, whether that's an hour that I sit down and do it in or 2 every morning.
Well, and this is great too, because we just had a question inside our community, inside the 11 circle, where someone asked like, hey, I'm hitting a roadblock on my notes. And what's great is you have a lot of people jumping in with ideas and suggestions. And so this applies exactly to that, which you guys can come join us in there if you want. Just go to
Well, in listening to what Corey wrote in there, it was really interesting because I think like it was... a lot of the answers that came in, and they were all like good answers, were like, here's who you write notes to. Where I was reading his question, it was more of like, no, I need tactical help on how to make sure I'm consistent on this every single time. Like I have a plan around it. And I think this is where building out an SOP becomes very powerful, because all of a sudden you have to sit down and say, okay, what are all the moving parts around this? What is the stationery that I want to use? What is the feeling that I want my people to receive from me when a handwritten note goes out? What is the tonality in the notes that I want to be writing? Do I want to write notes that are upbeat? Do I want to bring that type of energy from me? Do I want to be more of like understanding of what's happening in people's worlds and being able to connect with them on stuff that they're dealing with and going through right now? Like, what is my big picture with writing these handwritten notes? What colored pens do I want to use? Why do I want to? Like, I'm talking about getting really detailed into what does it mean to build out a business and these systems in this way, because then you can do the 10-80-10. You can very quickly go, what are all the parts of this that I don't need to be a part of and don't need to worry about? And when you talk about handwritten notes, it really is, maybe it's the sitting down and putting pen to paper. Maybe that's the only part that you need to really be a part of. And the rest of it you can outsource and you can give away. Yeah. Like maybe that's what it comes down to, but you don't know, and you can't give any of that away until you have a plan to be able to give to somebody. But I think there's these, when you're building out SOPs, Matt, there's the idea of being able to give this stuff away, which some people might be listening to this and going like, yeah, but I don't want to outsource it. Okay, forget that. Fine. Let's just say, not going to outsource. The other part of it is consistency. Mm-hmm. Do I have something that I can show up to and do consistently over and over and over again and get consistent results? You have to have a plan around it and an operating procedure around it. The other side of it, which I am learning about right now and I'm getting more and more into, is this other side of, okay, now if I'm consistent with it and I've been following the same plan, not changing the thing over and over and over again, now I can sit down and say, am I getting the results that I want to be getting? Do I need to change up some parts of this plan so I can get better results from it, or make it the impact that I truly want to be making? And now I can grow this operating procedure into something that is more powerful for the future. But I can't make those adjustments. It's like having a recipe at a restaurant and saying, okay, we're going to make this new creme brulee and we're going to send this thing out every single night this way. We're going to get our clients reviews on this thing. And when you have that same way it's been made, not different every night, not different one week, different this week, same way all the time, we can sit back and going, do we want to keep this thing on the menu? Like, do we pull it? Like 86 it, let's bring in a whole new, this thing's not hitting the mark. We need to kill it, come up, reinvent it because it's not working. Let's bring something else in. Or we noticed that they really wish the crust on the top was a little bit better. I hate creme brulee, by the way, so I'm talking like I know what creme brulee is. Man, hate it. But like that might be the thing that we're like, we need to do this because the ones that showed up this way, we noticed had a little bit higher reviews. Let's change the operating procedures so they're consistently that way. You get to learn. You get to learn. And that I think is the biggest takeaway that I'm seeing out of this is the forward growth to who you want to be, the business you want to have.
You also have a foundation that you can go back to if something doesn't seem to be working. So that same creme brulee is going out, but on Tuesday, for some reason, people aren't liking the creme brulee. What's going on? Oh, well, John is the dessert chef on Tuesday. So let's go talk to John and figure out what's going on. Hey, John, are you following the procedure? Well, I mean, yeah, sure. Right. And I was like, okay, walk me through it. Like, oh, we're missing the blowtorch, right? He's crusting it with something else. I don't know. I don't really know
how
to.
a Bic lighter.
He's putting it in the broiler, right? And it's like, oh, that one change he's not following the SOP is creating this. So let's just go back to doing it this way. And all of a sudden, Tuesday, the reviews are going up on the creme brulee again, right? And this works with your market impact reports and handwritten notes and phone calls as well, right? It's like, oh, well, how come I'm not seeing the same results from the handwritten notes that I've had before? It's like, well, I stopped doing this part of the process. But if you don't have the process written down, you can't go back and analyze it, which is, I think, a big reason why realtors put so much pressure on themselves, Gary, and they beat themselves up because they say, well, I must be the problem. And yes, you probably are
Yep.
because you're responsible for everything, but it's not you holistically. You're not following the process this one time. So it's not that you can't do it. We just deviated. Or maybe we do identify, like you said, there is a problem in the process that we need to correct, and it could be a minor thing that all of a sudden makes it all easier. But actually writing this stuff down it also just makes you more efficient, Garrett. I find that stress in real estate comes from lack of clarity, lack of certainty on what's coming up this week, who's going to have problems. And those things are going to be there. The fires are going to happen. The more processes you have in place that will help tamp those down. But do you then also want to have the stress of who am I going to write notes to? How are these market impact reports going to get made? When am I going to find the time to make phone calls? If you have a process, a lot of those questions are answered for you already in those processes, which then just removes that stress from the table, Garrett.
So while you've been sitting here talking, I've been thinking like recipes are probably one of the best examples of SOPs. Like take a step outside of real estate for a second.
Preheat your oven to 350, do this first, then do this. And you're like, oh, it worked.
Oh, 100%. And then there's like grandma's recipe to make that specific dish. Well, what is that and what makes that so special? How did she get there? Well, she took a standard recipe or a family recipe that they found years and years and years ago. And they said, what we noticed when we do this, it makes the potatoes fluffier. It makes the cookies sweeter. It makes whatever it might be. Those were the ones that smashed out of the park. Did anybody document what we did different? Like what happened? What did we add in here? And all of a sudden they go, oh, we added in this. We'll make that change in the recipe going forward so we can always do that over and over and over again. And recipes are very, like you look at, I used to work in the restaurant industry, and I was a chef and I was in the prepping kitchen, and everything has an operating procedure. The way every mushroom is cut, piece of broccoli is cut, tomatoes cut, so that it's ready for the chef when the thing hits the line. Every single way that every item is put down, how much is used, like it is exact. There's no messing around, and that's actually what makes a successful restaurant, is having these operating procedures that somebody can come in and have the exact same experience every single time and maybe even improve upon it along the way.
Yes.
In real estate, Matt, and I would say in a lot of small businesses and people that we get to work with, we're winging it almost every single time. We know we need to do, go back to, market impact reports. We know we need to do 2 a week. So, okay, let's throw together 2 a week. We'll get them out. We'll send them out. And man, that one worked really well, but we don't really know what we did different. I know we added in this piece of information. They seem to like that. But then we go back to an old way and we do it another way again. And we're always kind of switching it up, doing it with different people. Sometimes it's anniversaries. Sometimes it's somebody I talk to. Like there's there's no operating procedure around any of this at all.
Yeah.
And I think this is an opportunity for everybody out there to sit down and say, okay, let's break down all the aspects of our business. There's business growth. Things that are going to push our business to the direction we want to go. Great. Make a list of all those things and say, okay, every one of these needs to have an operating procedure. There's the taking care of the clients through the transaction. I think actually most agents have better operating procedures around this than they do around business growth. They kind of have that. When that listing comes in, we get it signed. What are the exact steps of what happens here? When we get that offer that comes in, mutually accepted, what are the next steps? Oh, we schedule these appointments. We get these people in line. We can look at our client and go, these are the next steps. This stuff we actually have more organized out, I think, because the stakes are higher. We have to answer to somebody. We have to actually sit there at the end of the day and be like, yeah, I did what you were expecting me to do. But again, our business might be out of control.
Yeah. When there's increased accountability into something, you typically start to have some things organized. I would even argue, though, even that element of a lot of people's businesses is not organized to the level it is. Like, well, I knew I need to schedule these appointments. Cool. How do we schedule those appointments? And I know some people will think this, like, oh, do you really have to go into that much detail? Well, how powerful do you want your business to be? How much time do you want back for life? And once the procedure is created, it's not like you have to do it again. You just have to follow it. And I find too that you end up with people who have a light procedure, which is way better than nothing. This was me when I was listing and selling real estate. It's like, cool. Like when we go under contract, I got to do all these things and everything. And I found myself writing the same emails over and over and over again. And I was like, what if I just created a copy paste version of this? And I had qualifiers for my inspectors based on location, because I had a very wide field and I had some inspectors that would not go to different places or that were just better because, you know, we need somebody who does septics over here and over here where we need a sewer scope. I was like, oh, well, I'll just create a list. And then given the criteria, this is what gets thrown into the email to get these things requested or whatever I needed to share with the buyers or sellers. And it started to make things easier to do, because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you might as well build templates and SOPs for it, because it'll just happen faster. And how many times, Garrett, this happened to me, where you're like, okay, I just finished something and I know what I need to do next, but oh gosh, like there's a lot of work that goes into that and I'll just do it tomorrow, and all of a sudden it gets delayed. But if we had the procedure in place, it would have been a click, click, done.
Yep.
So much easier.
Oh, it's so much easier when you can see the next steps in front of exactly what needs to be done. And we've simplified it down so that, as you said, it's a click, click, done. It's like, I don't have to write this whole email. The email's already made. It's already there. I just need to make sure that that send gets sent on that. It just gets out the door. So I think it's interesting as we've been building ours out. So we've been using Monday. We're not sponsored by Monday here at all, but we use Monday a lot.
If you want to sponsor us,
if you want to sponsor us,
be on board, since we use your product and we love it.
We do. And, you know, so Monday is where we're building out all of our SOPs. And so, Matt, I think it's important. I'd like to share kind of how we're building SOPs, because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, as they sit there and they go, okay, I need to sit down and write out every step, type out every single step, which, yes, you definitely can do. I found myself getting lost in what are the steps that maybe I should be doing that I don't even know that I should be doing. Mm-hmm. And so this is where I've been using AI a lot right now. And I've been leaning into that and saying, okay, and I use the dictate into AI, and I basically just say, hey, I'm creating an SOP. This is what I'm creating the SOP for. Here's all the current steps in my mind that I know that I do right now, so this thing is going to be successful. But I've also been asking it, I give it the perception of I am a professional podcasting host. So I give it that piece, and I say, in a professional podcast, when you are editing these videos, what are steps that I am not currently doing right now that I should be doing, that professional podcasts would be doing around this SOP? And please ask me questions. And Matt, I have been fascinated as I've gone through that. And it's like, well, what is your process around this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have that process yet. Like I haven't done that yet. Like I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing it. And it was cool because it's just said, okay, so part of that SOP is it builds it out. It says you need to find somebody, and this is assigned to be determined, but here's something that you should be doing if you want to grow this podcast, if you want to take it to this next level. And those types of things, one, I can get by without doing it because I've been doing it so far without doing it. But it gives me this next placemat of like, ooh, I need to add that in. Like we got to figure that out because I can see why that's valuable. I just wasn't even thinking about it. And I think there's a lot of places in our business that we'll have moments like that, things that we're not even thinking about.
Well, and this gets into future proofing too, because some people will say, well, I don't need a procedure because like, I'm just always going to handle that. Like I want it to be dynamic. And it's okay. It's not about what happens right now, because just like what you said, you can still build out a robust SOP that maybe has some elements that you're not going to currently do. But as you grow, it puts you in the mindset of, but I do want to fill this section here. Like this is what I want to grow into. And if you build your optimal growth path through this, it's going to help you do the actions today that are going to put you there. It's going to put you in the mindset versus this like hamster wheel loop that a lot of realtors get into where they're just like, well, this is just the way it's done. It's the way it's done. It's the way it's done. Do you envision something here? Yeah, but I can't get there. Well, why don't we map it? And if you actually design what it should look like out there, then it's going to be easier to do the things now to get there. And you brought up an AI, Garrett, too, which I think is very important to highlight here is that what I've discovered too in using different tools of AI and everything is we're talking computer programming here. Like, I want to say like AI is not this like special thing. Yes, it's a language learning model, which is a computer program that can do certain things. And for that program to work really well with you, you have to be organized, because I've had inputs go into AI that have given me terrible outputs.
Garbage.
I didn't have a procedure on how that needed to work. But as you get clear on how to organize that stuff, how to prompt things appropriately, all of a sudden you get better outputs. And as we evolve in the next 5 years, really, people are like, oh my gosh, AI is going to take my job. I don't think in any space in the realtor world will AI replace you. However, people who are good at using it because they have created procedures are going to outperform you, which is going to leave you with less of the pie because they are going to capture more market share. And even if you have strong relationships, the more leverage that someone is using tech for so that they can also go build those relationships, they might have more time with those relationships that you think are strong. And all of a sudden they're stronger over there because you're still stuck doing these other things because you didn't take the time to build out operational procedures.
Well, and I think, Matt, in using AI to be able to do this and just resonating with what you're saying is that it's one thing for me to say, I'm a professional podcast host and I need an SOP to, from the moment I record a video all the way to the end and just create it. And it will, by the way, it'll be like, oh, okay. And it will just blast out a whole bunch of garbage. And people go, well, that doesn't really work.
That's not the way I want to do it. I don't have that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't use those systems. I don't use that stuff. This is not how I set it up. But it's different when you basically already have some foundation and some place to work with and that you can interact and work with it to grow. And it's funny, if I really look at what the operating procedure that has been created once I've used AI, it's nothing created for me. It has maybe opened up some ideas to holes that I have in my operating procedures, but it is never said, oh, you should be doing this, so we're going to make this for you and put this out here. It's just, nope, we got that. This is why it works. This is why you do it. Great. Here's the next one. The one that it actually got me on that I was like, I don't have a system around it right now was analyzing the analytics of the actual episodes. And so when it brought that up, it said, what is your procedure around analyzing the data? And I was like, we don't have one right now. And all I asked was like, what are the data points that I should be gathering and analyzing? And which then I was realizing there's a whole can of worms there to open up about how are you trying to grow? What are the metrics that are important to me right now? Because that might be different for somebody who's trying to grow in a different direction. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm going to come back to that later. That's a whole nother thing we need to get into.
That's great because it highlights, oh, I need to go work on that side. And this is why we tell people like tracking data and information, because if you're trying to understand your procedure around phone calls and how that converts to opportunities, but if you don't track your phone calls and opportunities, how are you going to build a procedure around analyzing it, right?
Well, in that, like I look at that part of the SOP around that, Matt, now, and I go, okay, like, so am I a highly analytical person? I have moments. There are things that I'll geek out about for a while, and then I'm like, all right, I'm over it. I don't need to know the data on that level. And analyzing the data like around our episodes and stuff is actually, I kind of geek out on it sometimes, but it's not something that grabs my attention forever. And I look at that and go, okay, is it really, really important to know? Is it important to know how many new subscribers we have? Is it important to know how many comments we have coming in? Is it important to know how many likes we had on certain videos, and why did those videos get the likes that they got to the ones that didn't? That's a system I could hand off to somebody whose specific job is to go and analyze our data if I want to do it down the road. You're probably more inclined to do that. If I were to say, Matt, out of our team, your job is this, or you might say, I want to take that job. That's what I'm excited about. When you are building out your team and you know who your players are, you can now take these tasks and say, look, John, who messed up the creme brulee, is way better on the grill. Like, let's get John. John, are you want to take steaks and take the burgers more so than you want to take the desserts? And you can put these people in the right areas to take on these right jobs that they can be more successful with. And so it's not always about hiring new people. It's just about finding the right people in your world that maybe you already have. Yeah. But you've got to have these plans built out. And it's a huge missed opportunity in people's, especially real estate businesses, Matt, huge.
Oh, huge too. And you mentioned, like, we talked about having good inputs. And I will say you can still model other things. Like when you get all that stuff out of like, hey, this is like, I'm a real estate agent. Can you give me an SOP to bring my clients from contract to closing? It'll give you something. And you'll look at it and be like, I don't really like that. But you can use it as a model and massage it. And I will say this, if you guys want the template that we're using, because once you have the template of how you build out your procedures, you can plug that into ChatGPT and say, hey, here's the template that we're going to use. Now I'm going to walk you through how I do it. Can you format it to this template and ask me questions on where I might have some gaps? So if you want that template, you can just DM me on Instagram at Matthew J. Bonelli. We'll send you the template. You could probably DM Garrett, although he may not check his DMs as often as I do, but just shoot me a message. We'll get you that template. And I'll even give you some instructions on how you can use it for you. So, by the time this episode's published, maybe I'll even have some more templates to just share with you. Who knows? Lots of good stuff.
Well, and I'll say is that we talk about being interactive. If you're using AI, you got to be interactive with it. You can't be stagnant expecting it to give you answers. And that's where I have found getting the best results is really turning on the microphone and dictating into it, having a conversation, answering the questions that it gives back to you. The more information you can give to it, it will build it around who you are, what you're trying to build, instead of just a blanket of, oh yeah, here's how that can be done. Yeah. Because you can all go in right now and say, hey, can you give me a recipe for a creme brulee? And it will spit out a recipe for creme brulee. Now, if you were to say, hey, I want to create a dessert tonight, and these are all the people that I have that I know that are coming. These are all like, this is where you can really create something specific for you. Still dessert, still going to be something we're going to give to our guests as they leave and as they're coming for dinner. But now we can create something that's very, very, very customized to what you are trying to create and the outcomes that you are trying to create. And maybe it's bigger than just, we served them dessert. And I think in everybody's businesses, Matt, you and I, we're looking at all this and going like, we want to be way bigger than just providing a great podcast. We want to be way bigger than, hey, we're just got a great coaching program. We have things that we want to do and the ways that people want to acknowledge what we're building. And this is the power of like what we're learning through our SOPs right now as we're building these out. And we're going like, oh gosh, what if? And
You also see the dark corners in your SOPs.
oh gosh, yes. It makes you stop and go, oh crap. I have been neglecting that. Like, because then you can analyze it, and whether you're using AI or yourself, just sitting with it and going, what would happen with my business if I did that consistently every single time? What would happen if I added in that little part that I didn't realize? And sometimes it might be working with AI. Sometimes it might just be sitting around and going out to lunch with a competitor or somebody who's a master in your office who maybe has a team that's running really smooth. And you want to go out and say, how do you work with your people? How do you meet with your team every single week? What do you guys cover? What do you talk about in your meetings? You can build out your operating procedures directly around somebody who's having success already and say, you know what? I'm not even meeting with my team. No wonder we're so discombobulated all over the place. Like, makes sense. Like, you have a better procedure than I do. No wonder you're getting better results.
It is amazing how that works. And I'll share a little story here, Garrett, to kind of emphasize the importance of procedures, because I've spent $15,000 in learning experiences over the past 2 years with not having procedures. And most recent, and this is with my other company, Prosecco and Post, right? So we spent $10,000 on a website that we're not using. And I spent $5,000 to develop a portal that we are not using because, and this is where the importance of asking yourself questions and understanding what you want things to do, what the procedure should be, will help. Because the developers that we engaged didn't really ask us all the questions to help us understand where this was going. And so they just kind of built something of what they thought would work. And meanwhile, like once we got to the final result, I was like, this doesn't really look like what we want it to do. Like, I don't understand, like, why, like, you're the professional, how come this isn't working? And specifically, most recently with this portal, I ended up having to build it myself with the assistance of ChatGPT. And it went through this process of like, well, how do we do this? How do we do this? I'm like, you're right. I do need to. And what we do currently, the problem is we needed it to match with what we do currently, but still have a way of improving upon that. And the developer just went, oh, well, this is the way you do it currently. We're going to just build this to make it look like it on this end. And great. It missed the entire back end to help support our admin side. And I was like, I don't have a way of managing this data or accessing it. And I kind of need that for it to function. So ChatGPT, in asking it the right questions and kind of saying, hey, I ran into a roadblock here and this is what I want. And like, if I had a full, clear written procedure that really made sense, it probably would have made the process go through a lot faster. And maybe I wouldn't have had to spend so much money learning this, right?
But here's another side to this, Matt, is that, yes, I know there's people listening out here right now, and I've had conversations with people that are like, oh, AI is going to put everybody out of work. It's going to take all these jobs, all this stuff. If that designer that you worked with sat down with maybe even AI, because I think AI, if used appropriately, makes the people that have the ability of being at a next level, allows them to go there. It allows them to have tools at their fingertips right now that allows you to grow at a rapid rate. AI is growing at a rapid rate. You have an opportunity to grow at a rapid rate. If that web developer was listening to this right now and they said, oh my gosh, I just learned this business, which we did get, they got paid for. But if they wanted to be a system that you would be like, oh, we had our website and all the stuff built for over here, you should go use them also. They could have easily have done that by having a procedure up front that learned what they needed to know from you, because they didn't have that.
Correct.
Learn what they needed to know, get to do the product that you wanted, and you would not have spent your time and your energy going and creating it yourself. Yes, can we use AI to go do that? Yes, did you get to a place that actually worked for you? But that company could have done that also.
Oh, they could have done it up front. And this is where there is also, this is the other thing I learned from this, is the breakdown in the procedures that were not in place for them in communicating with us, because there wasn't accountability anywhere. I was constantly searching for updates from everybody in both of these projects, and I wouldn't get feedback back. And so there was never an opportunity to improve upon where we would go. Whereas, and I'm not saying people should just go skirt this and go to AI to get a job done. It took me 2.5 months of my time to do this, which could have been spent doing some other things, considering I not only had my time spent, but also the money was already spent too. So it was like a double hit. But what I learned too was the importance of, they didn't have the procedures in how they do client updates. They didn't have the procedures when they ran into a coding roadblock, asking another question of like, hey, this is actually something, because we went about on one project 5 months before they're like, well, we can't do this. And I was like, but that's the whole reason why we hired you, was for that function. Like, we need that function to work. Oh, okay. Right. So there was something missing on the back end of that process that wasn't there, where it was like, how did it take that long for that to not surface? And it's like, well, if we have an SOP that's clearly written out that we can follow, and then when we run into a roadblock, we go, oh, we need to have another conversation. We need to ask more questions. And that's what a clear procedure will do for you. And so I don't want people to go and do what I did and spend, 5 figures to learn this, because you don't have to spend that much money to learn it. You just need to go and start to build it out so that you can be successful with your operations.
So I would say, you look at, like, again, as we've leaned in a little bit here to AI and talking about how you can use it. I would encourage you, like, write out, like, even like your customer service calls and communication, which is highly lacking in a lot of people's businesses right now. And it's biting a lot of realtors in the ass because they are not actually following through on customer service calls and keeping their clients up to date.
And then mostly the reason why they don't do it isn't because they don't want to have the call. They don't know what to say because they don't have a procedure for how we're supposed to make that call, which we have one of those too.
We have a procedure around that, but you need to sit down and sit there and say, okay, what are all the steps? I have a brand new listing, or I have a brand new buyer. Here are these steps of how we're going to do our customer service calls for the week. And then I would take all that and I would definitely drop it into AI and say, okay, here's my current procedure right now. Are there things I could be doing, because this is the type of realtor that I want to be, this is the type of business owner that I want to be, to create even better communication that maybe I'm missing on right now, and see what it brings to the table. And then what you do is you take that and you say, okay, I need to have a procedure that I can put into my weeks, into my mission statement of who I am, my vision statement of what this business is going to be long-term, make sure everything aligns. And then you need to sit back and say, okay, the reason I'm doing this and I'm showing up for this operating procedure is because it aligns to where I'm going, what I stand for, the goals that I want to achieve. And now it's not just this thing I have to do. Now all of a sudden it's got strength, it's got power behind it. We understand a bigger picture of why we're doing it. And it becomes less and less and less of a I need to, or I have to, or I should do that because my coach wants me to do it. Mm-hmm. It is an alignment with who you are. And I look back into all my years of coaching, Matt, and I always tell people, when you can figure out why you want to do it and why it's important to you, get out of that person's way. They are going to tear off after and make it happen. And I think a lot of these operating procedures help you figure out the bigger pictures around this too. It's not just something I just have to do. It's I want to do it, and I'm doing it because it's important to me to be the person I want to be as a business owner. So,
yeah. I'm so very high on procedures. I think everybody should have them, no matter how big or small you want your business to be, or that it is. Even if you're like, I'm always going to be the guy that's doing everything, or the gal. Cool, great. Still have a procedure for yourself, because you do want to take a vacation at some point, I assume. And you sometimes, you may want to unplug for some reason, or God forbid you get sick and you cannot be present with your people. You now have a procedure where you can call your manager, call a colleague and say, hey, can you help me out? Here's where everybody is. Here's the list of things to do. Imagine if you're an agent and somebody called you and said, hey, I really need some help. And here's everything that I need you to do. And you're like, oh, cool. All I got to do is go do this. Happy to help you out, right? Most of you would be more than pleased to go help somebody, particularly if they had a clear path for you to follow in order to support them and their clients while they're managing an illness or something like that. So
If I want to go
Lot
away
that
for
we
2
can do.
weeks on vacation, Matt, I can hand you right now an SOP on how to make YouTube shorts, all the pieces that go into it, and you would get in your hands and go, oh, I got this. I can take care of this. If I didn't have that, I'm like, dude, I'm going out of town. Hey, can you handle those things? And if you just need anything, I guess you can call me, but I really don't want to be bothered. Like
Yeah.
the chances of it getting done are almost non-existent. I mean, you're going to fumble
back.
through it. And I'm going to come back and be like, dude, I thought you had that. I thought you were on top of it. It really helps in so many ways.
Yeah, and that gets into a future episode where we're going to talk about assistants and hiring and how to get them right, because that's exactly what happens with a lot of people when they hire assistants. Like, I thought you had that. And there was no procedure for them to follow. You just gave them something with an unspoken expectation. And maybe you even spoke an expectation, but there was no grounding to it. And you ended up with nothing.
I can't wait to do that episode, because what I watch the business owner realtor do, Matt, is they go, oh yeah, I've hired a new assistant and I'm having them document what they're doing as they're doing their job. And I'm like, be the business owner, be the owner of stop delegating the writing, the operating procedures to this person over here who's learning the job as they go. Like, you should be writing the operating procedure and saying, this is what I need you to do, and we'll adjust it as we go along, but it's not their job. It's not for them to do. You don't give up the power of the control of the quality of your business to somebody who has no ownership in your business. Like, nothing. We're going to come back to that one.
Yeah, we are. And we got some good methods to help you get those things documented easily, because you're busy. We get it. They're like, oh, I don't want to sit down and do it. There's ways we can make this happen. So exactly. I'm excited for that. But Garrett, I'm glad that we were able to nail in here the importance and the value, particularly since we've been learning this. I mean, this isn't just something we're saying, hey, this is something you should do. This is through our own experience over this past year of building this business and getting the things that we need to have grounded, because there's a lot of elements that go into a business, as you all know, and we've talked about. And the more clarity you have, the more smoothly things will operate, which hopefully will translate into a higher net profit for you as well.
So many moving parts. And when you figure out one, all of a sudden there's 5 more that get created. And you figure out those and there's 5 more. It's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even think about this. But that's what I think it allows you, is once you figure it out, you get to see the next 5. They're going to allow you to grow even faster to the direction you want to go. When you figure those out, you're going to see the next 5 beyond that allow you to get faster to where you want to be and what you want to grow. And take the ones that are important to getting there. And then some of those you're going to be like, that's not important. But you only know that if you're planning this out. So with that being said, thank you, Matt. This was a great topic. I don't know who brought it to the table. I think both
it was on our list.
We should talk about this. To all of you listening to this right now, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please go subscribe on YouTube. It's free. It helps us out tremendously. We've had a wonderful amount of people coming into that world there, making comments in there. So I appreciate all of you who are doing that. If you want to come check out more of what we got going on at Life at 10 Tenths, you can go download our app. That will allow you to come in. You can see what announcements and things we have going on. You can get involved in, we have all the podcast episodes in there you can go listen to. And then if you want to take one little step higher, where we have a ton of great opportunity and information and value for you, we have our starter membership. It's $10 a month. Love to have you in there. And that's an easy one where you can come. We'll get a piece of information, value every single day that'll come to you through the app. And you can join us on that journey. We got book reviews. We got Monday mindsets. We got all kinds of stuff going on in there. Yeah. We're actually about ready to do a book review right now. If any of you haven't read the Almanac of Naval, what's his last name?
Ravikant.
I don't know why that wasn't about to come out, but we're going to review that book in there actually in here in just a second, because it is amazing. Come join us for that. And then if you want to look into our 11 Circle program, which is our group coaching, we have an amazing group that is growing out bigger and bigger and bigger every single day. We have incredible interaction having in that group. We have live coaching that happens. We'd love to see you in there and love to have you part of that journey with us. Matt, did I miss anything?
I think you hit it, man. That's great. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here and supporting us. We love you all. And we hope to see you in the community if you're not in there yet, because we got, like Garrett said, we got tons of great stuff in there that I know you can take and apply to help you guys grow.
Well, with that being said, Matt, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we will be back soon.